Welcome to the Christian Nerd HQ.
We are so
excited.
Let's go.
We have been working on this announcement for weeks and weeks. We are super excited to finally let you guys know what's been going on. And I am joined with the rest of our podcasting network. I'm Ricky Pope, the host of the Christian Nerds Unite podcast.
I'm Ashley Cox. I'm host of Fangirling Over Jesus.
I'm Lucas Pinkard, one of the hosts of the Reverend and The Reprobate.
And with me, as always,
is Big Dan Whip Gibson. What's going on, Big Dan?
Oh, no, I'm just happy to be here at the CNHQ, Christian Nerd Headquarters.
Ooh.
Downtown Atlanta.
All right, I'll step in here and stop this before it gets out of hand. All right, I am David. This is Tatooine Sons. I am joined by the Sons. They'll introduce themselves.
I'm Sam.
I'm Nate. That's it. That's all they have to say.
Yeah,
They probably won't say anything else the rest of the time.
You guys are so much cooler than we are.
We have been talking about this moment for weeks.
Yes.
And honestly, almost years. Some of us started having this conversation a year or so ago before we really decided this is something we needed to do. And we wanted to create a space where us Christian nerds could get together as a group, and a bigger group than just any one of our individual podcasts could ever do. And that's what I think makes this kind of special. Whether we're talking about Star Wars or superhero comics, Christian Nerd HQ is going to cover it all with insightful discussions of the impact of these stories, and we're going to look at them through our Christian faith and worldview. And tell me, guys, what made you excited about being part of this new adventure?
I'm excited just because I think that the community element of this, it's sometimes as Christian nerds out there, it feels like you might be on your own. Right. And so you see a lot of people out there that have a different worldview and a different approach towards things and their fandom that may not see the same things that you do in these stories. And when you share those things, you feel like you're the only one feeling these way, thinking these things, sharing these things. And so for us, I think that it's about, this is about community. It's about being a place where we can all get together and have those conversations. We're very excited about it for that.
Who else? How about you guys?
Say something cool. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for us is the idea that when we get together, like our friendships are unique but not isolated. Because like there's 7 of us on here, something like that. I'm not great at the math right now, but there's a bunch of us that are on here on this particular show because we love fandoms, but we also love Jesus, and that our primary goal and everything we're doing is to glorify God, even through our podcast, as ridiculous as they may be. But that's opened up this avenue for us to have community. But in each one of our isolated groups of fans, there are also people who are looking for that, and to give them not just a spot where they can go to where they know that they can get good perspectives on things that are happening in pop culture from a Christian worldview, but also that they can engage with not just other shows, but hopefully like long term, we're looking to do meetups at cons. Ashley's got cons that are coming up. We're going to be at Dallas Fan Expo. The Tatooine Sons guys are constantly being asked to be on panels at different conventions. Well, when we look at some of the Facebook groups that we're a part of, like the Christian Nerds Unite Facebook group, 16,000 plus members, people are at these conventions and they're always like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that there was another Christian who was there, who was cosplaying or who was checking out, this panel. Well, we all know that there exists within fandom this huge pocket of people who are believers. And if we can facilitate like meetups and opportunities, not just for people to listen to our shows, but to come together and do something where we can give updates, we can talk about the in-depth sort of philosophy behind the Mandalorian, for instance, which we're going to get to in a little bit, and all of those kinds of things. That is not just something that will facilitate us to have these great conversations in different podcasts, that would encourage other people that are part of these fandoms to do the same thing. But man, that'll help parents and teenagers and kids have these conversations with other people who are in their peer groups, so that they have the opportunity to share with them the gospel as an end goal is just such a cool and amazing thing. And it's more of like what we do with our show. It's like bringing our friendship onto the air so that more people get to experience it for better or for worse. And I think that that's such a cool thing for us to get to do with the 7 of us and with the 4 podcasts represented here.
Well, and I think
Awesome.
I think that's such the cool thing too, because we get to not just be friends doing this, but each of our podcasts do what you were saying. Like they bring in fandom, they bring in glorifying God, but they do so in such different ways, which I think is really cool. But then, like you said, the added community, like I love that, like a week ago, I could text you guys and be like, hey guys, I need some prayer for something. And you guys are there for me. And I know that we have a community that listens to our podcast that can do that as well. And it makes everybody, I hope it makes us feel less alone. And I think it'll make our listeners feel less alone. And I'm so excited for that.
Awesome. Well, for me, I will tell you first and foremost, I love my audience. I love the people I get to connect with all the time. But you guys individually, you podcasters right here in this live stream right now, you guys have made a difference in my life. And I wanted us to be able to do something together and be able to impact a new group of people with what you've impacted in my life. And I just want to see that camaraderie be able to grow bigger and bigger. Well, let's real quick, because what I have found is a lot of people that listen to me don't know about your shows, and people that have listened to your shows don't know about all of our other shows. So let's real quick kind of give a little bit about what each show is. Hey, David, why don't you guys go first?
I want to see, because I say it every episode. I want to see if either one of the sons can do it by memory after 5+ years. I'm going to call on the oldest, right?
Come on.
Come on. We believe. Let's go.
You haven't been saying this for 5+ years, though.
That's true. I've only been saying this for a couple years, but
all right, let's see if I got this. All right, we believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, and that these myths
that there's he messed it up. All right, can you fix it?
Can I fix it?
Yeah.
Can I do I start over,
Whatever
or do
you
I just go in the middle?
I mean, Lucas went for like 7 minutes.
I know.
On his
I got to
thing,
figure
so
out. I got to
we can
start
keep going
over
as long
again
as
because I got to figure it
can
all
go
out.
longer.
We believe that pop culture is the mythology of this generation. That there's a story written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story. There we go.
And that's why we talk about Star Wars, which we'll talk about today, and
Marvel,
Lord of the Rings, and
DC,
Marvel, and DC, and all of the other things that we nerd out about and that you guys nerd out about. And so the cool thing about the show is that it's not just 3 nerds geeking out and nerding out about this stuff. It's a dad and their 2 sons. And so the generational element of it is a really unique piece about the show that we think makes us different and special. So we love it. We have a great time doing it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Go ahead, Lucas.
Danley, I've been saying this for years and years. Let's see if you know.
We are 2 best friends interviewing people we have no business speaking with.
Oh man, nailed it.
And we have a lot of fun. Yeah, we've got we speak with anyone, comedians. A lot of times it's voice actors. We've got people from Dragon Ball Z and
My Hero Academia,
My Hero, writer for Seinfeld. There's
Star Wars.
A lot of fun people we've got the chance to interview with no earned. What am I going with here? We have no reason.
Essentially, we're imposters. We're imposters who emailed
Quick,
the right.
fully embrace your imposter status.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. We're those guys that walk into the party and everybody's like, "Why are they here?" But they start talking to us and like, "No, I'm pretty sure we invited them.
Yeah,
we wanted them here at the next one.
I'm just looking for the snacks.
Yeah, that's like that's it. But yeah, that's been the crux of our show. We've had the opportunity to talk to some amazing people. It started because we wanted something to do during the pandemic, and now has morphed into this like, hey, you know what we'd like to do is something else with more people that we like. And so here we are.
We're trying to get a kangaroo in studio right now.
Yeah, the in studio kangaroo is a goal of ours, which we think we're going to be able to accomplish in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that.
All right,
I've got to see.
I never know whether to believe you guys.
That's exactly right.
That's legit though. We are trying for an in-studio kangaroo. We might have to like settle for a wallaby, but we're shooting for a kangaroo.
We're gonna get something.
Yeah, his name's Loki.
But
of course,
it's all true.
Let's kick it to Ashley.
Yeah.
What? Not an alligator named Loki?
No. Not
Come
this
on, man.
time.
Good point.
Sorry,
Um,
Brady.
It's too on the nose.
so so Fangirling Over Jesus is actually a whole business that unites faith and fandom is a celebration of that. And we started with a shop on Etsy. Check us out on Etsy. And we celebrate through fashion that has fandom on the front, Bible on the back, or we do everyday cosplay like this awesome Kanan dress. And we have our podcast branch, which is called The Faithful Fan, but look us up under Fangirling Over Jesus. And it's basically a 10 to 20 minute encouraging audio devotional. I was blogging and I love writing, but I needed to verbally process. And so it's an audio devotional that showcases the gospel themes, but through impactful moments in various fandoms. It's a blast to get to do every few weeks, and it's not just for girls. I know the title says fangirling, but it is not just for girls. Just FYI.
So did you say that's a dress, or are you saying dress
Yeah.
is like the sense
No,
of fashion?
this is a dress. It's got, you can't see it. It's got pockets. It's got a skirt. It's got like Kanan's belt lower down.
Does
It's
it do a
awesome.
I was going to
twirl?
order it, but now probably.
Yeah,
I don't
for
have
sure.
room to like do a twirl.
So-
Otherwise, I would show you. But you can find it on the shop. There is
Like,
a shirt. There's a
yeah.
shirt.
Being-
that's
There
a
is.
shirt.
I thought, okay,
Hey,
good.
there you
All right,
go.
there we go.
I
Being a
ordered.
dad that only has girls, the fact that you said it has pockets means so much.
That's why I made it. I'm like, there's pockets. My supplier got a dress with pockets. Yeah.
Yeah,
Best day ever.
I ordered a custom piece from Ashley for my wife that she's a huge Ahsoka fan, and not only is it amazing and great quality, but I didn't know that dress was an option, and so we're gonna have to cut this part from the episode because if she knew there was a dress with pockets option, like that's no. What
Let's
I got
just
her
be
is
honest,
no longer
Lucas.
satisfactory.
Your wife doesn't watch this. So,
Yeah,
um,
no.
so-
She might because Ashley's on it. She doesn't care about the rest of the
Right.
other 6 of us. Could just be whatever.
I think we should keep that in.
Well, on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast, I dive deeply into nerdy fandoms, and we look at them through the lens of our faith by chatting with Christian content creators and experts in their fields who love comics and video games and media and tabletop role-playing games and sci-fi and fantasy and any other nerdy thing I can come up with. And we try to discover how their faith shapes their creative work and what and how that impacts their lives. I'm big on trying to find people who are actively using their nerdiness to make a difference in people's lives through the gospel of Jesus. So that's a big thing for me. But man, it is Star Wars.
I know. We've got
Oh,
like
my goodness.
15 minutes into this.
May
and
the
haven't talked
fourth
Star
be with
Wars
us.
yet.
And also with you.
Yes.
This
Thank
is the
you.
way.
I know now.
Dan has spoken.
Lucas. So I'm not sure about this next little segment here, but
Oh my goodness.
Lucas, were you going to interview David, or do we want just David to start talking?
You know what?
here?
I want to both and because I think
Okay.
me getting more mic time will continue the criticisms we have on our show of Lucas talks too much. So we'd really love to carry that over into the network as well. David, will you talk to us a little bit about some of the religious overtones of Mandalorian season 3?
Now we turn it over. I'm not sure if I want to talk much about this. I'm hoping that I can get the Sons to speak into this a
Yeah,
little
no
bit. but,
kidding.
So
Well,
here
you didn't prep me for that.
well, you know, so the reality is going into this season, if you were a part of like the Star Wars conversation on social media, specifically like on Twitter, the religious element was seen as a very negative piece of the storyline, like
The cult.
the cult, and
Yeah.
and the armorer was evil. That carried in all the way till the finale of the season, where people thought she was going to be betraying, Din Djarin and Bo-Katan and all
She
of that. With that, but why? The reality is, people struggled with the religious element of the Mandalorian in a big way. I'm curious if maybe you guys can share a little bit about why you feel like that's the case.
About why it was deemed
Yeah, or just your
negative?
thoughts on the religious element.
Well, I mean, I don't see why that's the case. I think it's, it probably comes down to why is religion criticized in the first place? It's some people can find it oppressive, or not oppressive, but like a burden. There's rules that you just have to follow, as opposed to the real reason why we have faith is because we've been saved and we want to show our allegiance to our Lord and Savior, not that it's a set of rules that we have to follow. But one scene or one thing that really like spoke to me in this season was when it was after they went to Mandalore and Din Djarin slipped and fell into the living waters and kind of drowned, and Bo-Katan got him out, and they went back.
Got baptized in the living waters on a technicality.
Yes, basically. Yeah. But they go back to the covert, right? And the armorer was talking to Bo-Katan, and she's like, "You're a member of this covert now." And I was expecting everybody to kind of be like all the other members of the covert to kind of be apprehensive towards her because she was a part of the the other side that had neglected or not neglected them, but was opposed to the covert. But they all welcomed her with open arms, and it really you can tell that it impacted Bo-Katan. And I'm like, that's what it should be like, and I think that it is what it's like when a new believer comes to Christ. I'm sure they are worried that they're going to be judged and I'm a bad person. I've been living wrongly. When in reality, I'd like to think most of the time they're welcomed with open arms, and they're like, "Look, you came to the right side of things. We're just happy you're here." I thought that was a really interesting scene. That's one thing that spoke to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sam, Nate, I do that every time. Yep. Every time. Sam, Nate. I can't get their names straight. I've only
known
them
both, so you got it
their entire lives.
The older you get, the more you do that.
That's great.
That's great.
Put it together like Bo-Katan, Sam, Nate. Boom.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Ricky. I feel great now. All right.
Come
BB
on,
Nate.
Nate.
Yes, that's what we call Nate around here. BB Nate. All right. What are your thoughts on the religious elements, especially in season 3 of The Mandalorian?
Yeah, they've been pretty obvious throughout the entire show. Not something really that they've hidden a lot. They've wanted to show them a lot in the covert, and that being such a big deal to the Mandalorian or Din Djarin and the armor and Paz Vizsla and all that stuff. It's a huge deal to all of them. Even going into Book of Boba Fett with the Mandalorian episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. And we see all that. And then in this season, it feels like it takes it to the next level because within the first 2 episodes, it's all about him trying to be redeemed from that point. And we see Bo-Katan, who is a very important character in this season, probably more important than she was in season 2.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
She, in season 2, was completely against the covert, completely against the creed, thought it was ridiculous and cultish, and as we've been saying. And then we see her go through these transformations, these basically what we would consider miracles, seeing these things happen and understanding, oh, they're not crazy. They're actually believed in the right thing all along. And so then she changes her mind and becomes one. And like Sammy said, they were welcoming her with open arms, which I hope we would all do. And it was awesome to see her, even at that point, kind of not fully invested in the creed before they got to whatever planet they were hiding on at that point. She still was kind of buying into it. She didn't take her helmet off at any point in that period. She said this is the way and was starting to follow that parts and then just committed to it after that. And so just a complete transformation of her character. And that was a huge part of who she is now in the show. Completely is a different Bo-Katan than we've seen in Clone Wars and in Rebels and in this now. She's different now. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Now, Ricky, I know that when we were in our group chat, that we've had in place to really talk about this amazing opportunity and network that we're doing, but we ended up talking to Star Wars a lot too, and other stuff. Ricky, you were talking about the spies element. You had some theories and some thoughts that other people have even brought up. Share a little bit about some of the religious imagery you've seen in this.
Sure. Early on, I don't know how many of you remember this. There was this green stone that Din Djarin brings back, and somebody takes the time to actually go and translate what Star Wars language actually meant.
Arabesh, yes.
And it turns out it's a scripture reference to the plagues and the children of Israel as slaves in Egypt, which is kind of unusual. Why would they do that? Then we get these titles of different episodes. We've got The Convert is one of the titles, and we've got the I can't remember one of the other ones.
Yeah,
the apostate. Yes.
Yeah.
So all these religious overtone words used. And then we have this one called The Spies, and everybody's trying to, who's the spies?
Everybody
Who
got
are
it
the
wrong.
spies? And,
Except for Ricky.
Exactly. And the minute I watched it and saw the title, I was like, they're trying to take the idea of the 12 spies that went into the promised land to check it out first, to see, hey, go into the land and see, is it safe? Do people already live there? Can we take this land? And then they come back. Because that's kind of what happened in this episode. She took a small contingent down to the planet to make sure, see how everything was, see if they could find the forge. The plan was to go back and report. Now we know no analogy is perfect, and this analogy does kind of break down at this point. But we do find that there are quote unquote giants in this land that have taken over the planet and are now using this as an imperial base for the future of Moff Gideon's empire, which is definitely different than all the other empire.
Cool looking empire.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting analogy, and I can't imagine that someone did this by mistake. I can't imagine that there was that much connection just by mistake. I think somebody had it in mind, whether they fully believe it or buy into those religious ideas that we would all accept as truth. I think they definitely were using it. And along with that, I had a long conversation with someone about these kind of stories. And David, you guys used that line, there's a story written on our heart. I had a friend who was a writer who was on the show, and we were discussing, why do these redemption stories keep coming up in the writing of people who are definitely secular? And one of the things that he said was, they can't help it. It's part of who we are as human beings. It's the way God created us. God created us to know that we needed redemption. Some of us decide to accept that, but they can't help themselves but write that into their stories. And that has made a real impression on me when I read or watch anything anymore.
Yeah, I think the Mandalorian people are sort of analogous to the Israelites in certain ways. Like they're a small group of people that are isolated on this one particular planet that has a very specific creed, while they're surrounded by other people who do not believe the same way that they do and are constantly trying to overtake them. Then you have this major split that happens that essentially, between all of the tribes, it also divides them into two different types of people: those that adhere to the way, which are a smaller kingdom, and those that don't, which would be a larger kingdom. And that eventually not only is their kingdom destroyed, but they're dispersed throughout the galaxy, and every place you go, just like what happens with the diaspora, you can find these little pockets of people, and some of them are just integrated into society. Some of them have become like incredible warriors that are known for this type of reputation, and others are seeking to preserve what's left of their culture in these little pockets. And I think the analogies between like the Mandalorian people and the Hebrew people are so specific and distinct within Star Wars. And I do think that this is a really unique thing that they've done, particularly with this season, and making those connections a lot more apparent. But I do think, to Ricky's point, like part of the analogy breaks down with the spies, but I'm wondering, and I want to get Ashley's take on this, do you think that this is sort of like almost a revisionist history kind of thing? That like they looked at the story of Joshua and the spies, and they were like, all right, well, this is what would have happened if those 12 spies would have got it right. If they would have gone back and been like, you know what, we actually can do this. We can take this place, send in the troops, instead of, 10 coming back and saying this is impossible, and 2 being like, no, I'm pretty sure we could take them.
I definitely think it could have been. I mean, everything's possible when you're when you're a Mandalorian, right? I have loved getting, I remember like with the first 3 episodes, like I love the spy storyline, and I love that we have that correlation there. But for me, like my favorite part has been the first 3 episodes, and then linking back to the last episode where we get we're literally getting baptism on screen.
Right.
Like as somebody, like when I worked in church ministry, part of my job was setting up the baptism tanks and doing the meetings with people before church happened so that they would be ready. And I would this will come as no shock, but every time I saw somebody, get baptized, I was crying because, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And, I know Lucas and Danley know me well. And so, but it just, I was floored. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting this actual picture of baptism. And then I love when we get later in the season with Bo-Katan and her realizing and adopting kind of this faith and bringing that into her heart and into her leadership. And we see her rising. Like I just did a devotional about, women in the Bible and how strong women are in the Bible. And I love that we get this kind of correlation, not necessarily directly correlating to a particular female in the Bible, but the same kind of thing, like this woman who's coming into her own and her leadership and her strength, and she's been ordained basically and called into that role of leadership. And we see that culminate in the last episode of The Mandalorian this season, where the armorer hands her the torch and she gets to relight the forge. Like what an incredible moment of ordaining. Like I loved that part.
Dan, any thoughts?
Yeah, Dan, do you have thoughts?
I loved it. Yeah, I think so. When you guys were talking about the analogy of the spies going in, is the milk and honey Beskar?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Yeah. So it was cool.
They went in to have a milk.
Exactly.
So the other thing though that you were talking about with this, kind of the correlation to Israel. The other thing that I think is really important. This I picked up on just in the very first couple of episodes of this season, was that the religious dedication of the cult in this is what preserved the Mandalorians. And it reminds me so much as someone who's a little bit obsessed with understanding, Israel and Jewish history and ancient Near Eastern, theology and things like that. I look at Israel and how in the diaspora, 2,000 years of being driven out of their land, scattered, what you see with the Jewish people is their adherence to their faith is what preserved them as a people, so that they would be able to return to their land and reinstitute their nation. And this is exactly what happens with the Mandalorians. And so people were really critical of the cult, but they missed, I feel like they missed the beauty of that, and how that preserved their culture. And then with Bo-Katan and with her faction of the Mandalorians, they had lost their faith. They had lost their commitment to the belief. It was just political in nature. It was just that type of thing, and they were fracturing because of that. And so when you study the Jewish people and the history of Israel, you see that as they lose their faith, they assimilate. When groups of the Jewish people, move away from Sabbath keeping, when they move away from Torah keeping and things like that, they lose their cultural identity and they assimilate fully into the culture that they're a part of. And we even saw that happening with it. So I think it's just absolutely fascinating. So, I'd be curious to see how it goes forward with the Mandalorian going forward. I know that it felt to us, I'll get your guys' thoughts on this and then we can move to the next topic, but the finale of the Mandalorian season 3 felt like it could have been a series finale. There was really, it's a shifting in the story in a pretty significant way. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I just want to know, what do we think is going to happen with the Darksaber? Because that was a big loss to the future of Mandalore.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a lot of
Is it gone for good?
Go, BB Nick.
Well, I mean, I have my theory that I feel like I was right about, and y'all dismissed it really quick.
We do that.
I feel like Din Grogu, now is his name.
Yes.
Is the Mandalorian. Has been since the beginning, because he was the new character introduced in the first episode. This whole story has been about him the entire time. And now that the Darksaber is out of question, that was one of y'all's big points of why it couldn't work. He couldn't wield the Darksaber because it's way too big for him. But now that that version of the Darksaber is just out of the question, he can forge his own. He can be the next Jedi Mandalorian to forge the second Darksaber to rule Mandalore. That's one of the connections.
Okay.
The other connection.
A tiny little cute one.
Yes, a tiny little cute one. It would be adorable.
Smaller than
It
Yoda's.
would be great. But
The Levi size one.
Yeah.
yes, in the final episode at the end there, we do see that Grogu connects with the Mythosaur, and he woke it, and that's, we know, a big deal for the Mandalorian and prophecy,
The taming of the Mythosaur. Yeah.
But you might be like, Bo-Katan did the same thing in the second episode, right? That was the second.
I think, yeah,
It was
it was
the
the
second
second
Yeah,
episode.
second
Yeah.
episode.
second or
yeah.
third.
But Grogu was there too, and he was right alongside him, but he didn't get in the water, but he didn't have to get in the water to wake up the Mythosaur in the last one too. I genuinely think that we will see Din Grogu become the Mandalorian and forge the next
ruler of
Darksaber.
Mandalore.
Yes.
All right.
Forge
You better
the
learn
next
how to
Darksaber.
speak before
Dude,
he does that. That's
think
I
that's
got
really
this
good.
like amazing
Yes.
picture.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever read the Axe Cop comics? Because Axe Cop has this T-Rex named Wexler that he rides on that's got machine gun arms. And I just have like this picture of Din Grogu like riding the Mythosaur.
as IG-12.
He says it's
Yeah.
a little
There you go.
speck.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like this tiny little thing, and then he just swings his tiny saber to battle, and then there we go.
So
Or
to
in-
answer the question, I mean, it felt like a series finale with, with Din Djarin putting his feet up at his new house.
Yeah.
But I think,
Which
I
is
think there's
eerily
more.
similar to the Flintstones house.
Yeah,
is.
and the ending was a little like Looney Tunesy when it just did the
It
transition
was.
to the little circle. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was waiting for Grogu to be like, bitty, bitty, bitty.
All that is, folks.
All that is, folks.
All that is, folks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I'm curious how everyone's going to be celebrating Star Wars Day.
I know how you're not going to be
Mm.
celebrating
Yeah,
it.
so I'll start with that. It had been 2019. This is right pre-pandemic. I took my son out of school for May the 4th, and we decked out the house with all kinds of Star Wars stuff. We have a little dog, and we put her in the backyard. My wife dressed her up as a princess, and all kinds of little strings and like laser beams that he had to jump through to go save her. And we streamed
fun.
Star Wars all day. We had green lemonade, Yoda punch.
Mm-hmm.
He had a great time, and then the next year rolled around, and he was heartbroken to hear that this was not a national holiday,
Oh, no.
and that he
Which
had
it
to go
should
to
be.
school. So,
Yeah.
so that's what I was going to ask, is I think we should petition to make it a national holiday. But then also, I'm curious for the viewers and everyone watching, and then for the hosts here, how are you going to be celebrating? We'd love to hear in the comments, and then I'm curious for you guys. What are your plans?
I don't know what we're doing. Not
quite yet.
with
I know
that.
what we're
So-
doing that night.
But we're doing tonight. Yeah, we're going to see Guardians of the Galaxy.
We are
at
that
some
night.
point during the day with that. But yeah,
That's good fandom. That's good fandom, right?
because
You
that's
gotta
what
cross
comes
over.
You
out.
just got to
But,
squeeze in a little Star Wars. But
every
Guardians-
day is Star Wars Day
Very
for
true.
Tatooine Sons.
Good answer.
So
Maybe we should binge Vision season 2.
I always want to watch A New Hope on
Mm.
Star Wars Day. That's kind of, if I can get A New Hope in, I've had a good day.
Mm. That's a win. I think so I have a Death Star waffle maker. So we always make Death Star waffles, breakfast for dinner, best thing ever.
Perfect.
And then we'll usually watch one of the movies, whether it's A New Hope or I think a couple years ago we did Force Awakens. This year I might petition for Rise of Skywalker because that's one of my favorites. Or I might introduce my mom to Rebels because she has still not seen Rebels.
Oh,
But
nice.
my favorite, oh my gosh. Okay, so I just have to share this. During COVID, so like May the 4th was like right, it was right at the beginning of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through the Starbucks drive-through. And I have a Kylo Ren mask. Not like a face mask. I have the mask.
The whole thing, the helmet,
The
and
whole
everything.
thing. So I order, and then I put the mask on, which is hard to drive with, by the way, just FYI. And
You're just getting very angry and
So I drive up to the window to get the drinks, and the barista had no idea what day it was because she just looks at me like I've got two heads and I am the weirdest person in the world, and I'm just like, Happy May the 4th, may the force be with you, and she's like, here's your drink, bye. Maybe I'll do that again. We'll see.
Maybe.
It could be fun.
You got to record it.
Yeah, have some people video that.
Yeah.
That's gold, right?
We don't have a Death Star waffle maker at my house, but we do have a Death Star ice ball, which which we will certainly use in a nice glass of milk, and because who doesn't like to have ice with a milk? And then one of the other things that we'll do is my wife has just recently picked up into Star Wars fandom since we've been married. So she normally picks a movie, and this will be the one time a year I pull out my saxophone and play the beginning of the Cantina Band song poorly, and then she'll open the door and say, "Hey, honey, either practice that more often or put it away until next year."
Yes,
and then that's
Star
what I'll
Wars
do.
is on, honey.
Yeah, that's it. That's our celebration. Do, 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 front. And then we're done. It's out.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness. Well, if you are, those of you who are watching and listening, definitely put down in the comments. Let us know what you do for Star Wars Day, what you have planned for this year, or something cool that you've done in the past. We definitely want to hear from you. So do we want to talk about the future of Star Wars a little bit, guys?
Yes.
The future
Absolutely.
is good.
Yes.
So there were some big announcements recently, and where do you guys think we're headed? Let's start with Ashley this time.
I think we're headed for Rebels season 5.
Oh,
That's just, I mean, that's
A
basically
live
what
action
Ahsoka's going to
5.
be.
Yep, let's
That's
do
what
it.
Ahsoka's going to be.
Yep.
And I am so here for it because if you can't tell, Kanan is my favorite. That's the only downside. But one of my, predictions that are sure to go wrong.
There we go.
mhm, yep.
Yes.
I want, and I'm just going to manifest this out there.
Oh,
I want,
Name it.
I want Freddie Prinze Jr., Force Ghost, Kanan in the Ahsoka series.
oh, wow.
That is my big dream and hope. I am so excited for the Ahsoka trailer. I was actually watching the Star Wars Celebration 8-minute recap before this, and I'm bawling because it's so amazing. Because the Ahsoka's great. We've got so many other new shows coming out, but that Ahsoka is my favorite because, of course, I love Ahsoka Tano, and I love her character. I love Ashley Eckstein originating that character. I enjoy Rosario Dawson and what she's doing with it live action. I'm so stoked for Lars Mikkelsen getting to be Thrawn.
Mhm.
That's going to be so incredible. We're getting Sabine, we're getting Hera, we're getting Ezra, and of course Chopper. Chopper is
I mean, can we just go ahead and acknowledge the fact that Ashley is the one that developed the Christian Nerd HQ logo, and it's eerily similar to
definitely got
Chopper with headphones.
She drew on some inspiration from the
Interesting.
Rebel
with
series,
that.
for
So,
sure.
'Cause
Yeah.
what is it? What do amateurs do?
Amateurs imitate, professionals steal.
Steel.
there we go.
There you go.
we go.
I'm gonna remember that one.
Well, actually, I completely agree. I am so excited about Thrawn. I'm excited about everything, but Thrawn, I can't wait. I've read through the first 3 books of Thrawn.
Of the new canon Thrawn.
Yeah, the new canon. I'm reading through Ascendancy now, and I cannot wait for the live action. So, in fact, I can't wait that I'm starting Rebels. So I haven't watched it at this point.
You have not started
I haven't
Rebels?
seen Rebels.
No.
Okay, so now this idea that we talked about earlier, Danley has to be a part of
Yes.
that.
You get to
because
be
he gets that
Camden on their
initial
show.
experience.
yeah. I'm a
Oh.
Rebels baby. So I'm
It's
very
so
excited
good.
for Thrawn.
It is.
Yeah, I think that the introduction of Thrawn is probably what I'm most excited about in all of this. While I love the stuff like Visions and those other things, I think what we're seeing in a lot of the stuff that's coming out of the new canon with Ahsoka's introduction in the last 20 years, with Thrawn and his new storylines, and us being able to know so much about the Chiss Ascendancy and where he's at, I have this, and I don't know how many of y'all have read the Extended Universe books. I have this Thrawn theory that Thrawn is collecting people. That because there's Eli Vanto from the first book that he kind of takes, and then he sends them back to the Chiss Ascendancy, and then he disappears with Ezra Bridger. I think there's this idea that the Chiss feel like they're kind of the galactic police force in a way, and I think Thrawn is collecting people to that he sees that are incredibly talented for some giant purpose, and I don't think that purpose is the Empire. but I do think that the Empire are going to be the means to help him get to his ends, and I think we're going to see some of that in Ahsoka. But I think where we really see it culminated is in the Dave Filoni movie that got him out. Yeah, I'm saying Filoni. That's what Mace Windu called him. So I'm gonna roll.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll with
Mr.
that,
Filoni, as we call him in our
great
household.
T.C. Carson.
The great Filoni.
Yeah, the great T.C. Carson told us it was Fioni, and we were like, I'm not arguing with
correcting you.
Kratos. So
Do not want to get chewed out by him.
That's true. Yeah, I'm excited about. I think that we can pretty much agree with the Ahsoka stuff, just because we've been waiting for this moment since the finale of Star Wars Rebels,
so long.
which is a long time ago now.
Too long.
With it 5 years ago, Star Wars Rebels finished, and we cried with that. But I'm excited to see Ahsoka. I think it looks fantastic. I'm really curious about Skeleton Crew that's getting ready to come out next year.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Well, you know.
it's because of Jude Law. Isn't
Jude
it?
Law's a good-looking guy. With that's weird, I know. So people people have said I look like Jude Law, so I've run with it.
I have a question. Do people say that you look like Jude Law or that you look like Christian Jude Law? Because like we're always looking for like the Christian alternative to thing, and they're like, you look like you know what? You look like Christian Jude Law.
There we go.
Christian Thor.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard David say, people say I look like Jude Law so
It's
many
me.
times.
That's
I started to
right,
wonder, is it just David just says?
So we're sitting.
That
We
say.
sat in the Denver International Airport for 24 hours last January, and we're sitting there, and these people that were in the flight with us, you know, where you bond when you're stuck in an airport like that. You have a relationship with these people after a while. These people sitting across, they're looking at, they're like, I can't figure it out. But you look like somebody. And I'm just like, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. And then one of them goes, Jude Law. And they're like, that's it. So anyway, that's that's the kind of fun stuff. But anyway, I'm excited about Skeleton Crew because Skeleton Crew is going to tap into the, from what we're hearing, especially through Star Wars Celebration, we're going to be hearing about, we heard them talk about it being similar to the Amblin films in the 80s, like E.T. and Goonies and that type of thing. And originally, when they had announced this series, we were hearing Stranger Things in Star Wars, which is cool. We love Stranger Things. But the idea of having sort of a Goonies feel or an E.T. feel is something we're super excited about. What are you excited about?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to top the Ahsoka news, especially Thrawn and Lars Mikkelsen. I had been advocating for his casting in that role you know, from the beginning, even before there was like the talks of him coming to live action, just because he's so perfect for the role. So I'm really excited to see more of that. I'm really excited to see the fact that he's going to be in the role that his character was originally created for, back all the way in Heir to the Empire, which, you know, of course they dropped that.
Explain what you mean by that.
Well, he was this new up and coming officer from the outer regions who is this, who plans to restart the Empire, right? He's this big force. After the good guys, you know, the rebels won. Now there's this new threat coming to reinstate the Empire, and that's what his role is now. I mean, in Rebels, it was a great character, but it wasn't, you know, at all similar
It was like Proto-Thrawn.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he was just an officer in the Empire. Now he's this looming threat. And I think we're going to see his character really shine through that.
So are you guys okay with them using de-aging technology to bring Han, Luke, and Leia back in the Dave Filoni movie?
As long as they don't do it like they did with the first season or with season 2 of Mando, and they use like folks that
that
know what
version
they're
of
doing.
Luke.
Yeah.
That was something.
I would rather they just recast.
Ooh, that's
Really?
a hot take.
That is my hot take. I would
Okay,
rather
I've got a
just
dissenting opinion in that.
recast.
I thought they did pretty good with
I did
bringing
too.
the de-aging Luke.
The second season of Mando, or excuse me, Book of Boba Fett, which is
Yeah,
season
Book of
2.5
Boba
of
Fett,
Mando.
yeah.
But
Yeah, he
I
did
also didn't
fantastic
like
in that.
The Last Jedi, so I guess I'm wrong about that too.
Yeah.
And you also haven't seen
Wrong about a lot of
Rebels,
things,
so can we really take
Your
anything
opinions
you
are
say
wrong.
seriously?
Shame.
Can I?
Where's the shame? Let's go smash that shame
Smash
button.
that shame button on Danny right now.
I think they did a good. I actually really liked the CGI, and by the way, I do like The Last Jedi, and obviously I love Rebels. So maybe that helps a little bit. But
He's going to be like his Bo-Katan moment as he watches Rebels. He's going to move into his true conversion to being a Star Wars fan.
Oh wow!
And
Or-
and then
Or I'll just be
he'll-
removed from the show.
It'll change. It'll change.
that's a requirement to be on this network, is you have to
I
have
have to like the
seen
I
Last
think
Jedi.
de-aged Ricky would look a little bit like Seth Rogen. That's my.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can kind of see it. I can see it. I can see it.
I don't know.
So, Ricky, if you were to cast somebody as these other characters, like who would you cast? What's your dream casting in those roles?
I don't know.
Sebastian
I
Stan and
haven't.
who else?
Timothy
Sebastian
Chalamet.
Stan.
Alden Ehrenreich, you know,
Do you think
Yeah.
you could play a post six
Millie Bobby Brown. There we go. We've got it. The three, right?
Yeah.
There
Like,
you go.
as post episode 6?
With a
Yeah,
wig?
I haven't thought. I haven't thought seriously about who to cast, but I just feel like at some point, I'm concerned with the future of de-aging. I'm concerned we're going to get to the point that we're just going to stop getting new actors having opportunities to make new things. Which honestly, as much as excited as I am about Ahsoka and the Filoni movie that's in the works,
Fiona.
I'm much more interested. I'm much more interested to see the movie that they're talking about that's going to be set 25,000 years
That's gonna be
before
fantastic.
the New Hope. Because if it's good, we now have an opportunity to create a whole new world of what Star Wars looks like.
I'm in for
And
that.
maybe, finally, the galaxy will get just a little bit bigger.
Instead of having to have the cameo of the week stuff that we do in like the Mandalorian and that type of thing.
Yeah, and
Jack
everybody's
Black.
not going to have to go to Tatooine.
Yeah,
Hey, now,
exactly.
Watch it.
Hey.
There-
Where
this
there's
is where we draw the
sand.
line, right?
We-
for sure.
Maybe we'll have de-aged Ian McDermott in the 25,000-year-old Star Wars universe.
He went
Oh
back
my
in the
goodness.
world between worlds.
There you
Yeah,
go.
he did.
You know.
Boy, that would be fascinating.
What do you guys think about the idea of the 15 years after Rise of Skywalker? I'll talk to Ashley about this because she is the Rise of Skywalker. She said she really, really liked that. And that's the one that's probably of the three, for us at least, we liked it. We liked it a lot, but it was probably our least favorite of the three sequel trilogy movies. So Ashley, what do you think about the idea of bringing Daisy Ridley back, her reestablishing the Jedi Order 15 years post Rise of Skywalker? What are your thoughts on that film?
I'm so stoked for it. When they made that announcement and you just hear her music, I lost it. I was so excited because I think I love, first of all, like I was trying to look up the woman who's directing it. I'm gonna butcher this name and I apologize. Charmin Obaid-Chinoy.
I think
But
that's pretty
she-
close.
Yeah.
She directed Miss Marvel,
Mhm.
and she's done, according to Nerdist Saving Face, I mean, she's done other things too. So I love that we also have a female directing it. I love that we've got Daisy Ridley back because at the end of that sequel trilogy, which the sequel trilogy got me into Star Wars,
Right.
Okay.
so it has a really special place in my heart. And I think if they handle it well, I think it could be really solid. The nice thing is what we've seen with Daisy, with Rey, is we've seen her come from nothing, come into, yes, she's, Palpatine's granddaughter, but even more, but she's come past that and she's gotten confidence in herself. She's learned from Luke's mistakes. And I think she can be a more capable and wiser, not necessarily, I don't want to compare her and Luke in the wisdom area, but like, I think having that experience is what I'm trying to say. Like, if she is truly trying to reestablish the Jedi Order, I think that could go better. I think we could see a whole new opportunity for force sensitive people. I don't know what John Boyega is going to do, but I really hope they bring back Finn. I think that could be a really good opportunity. And then, from children like we got in Last Jedi, like that little boy at the very end, I thought that was amazing.
Yes.
I think this could be a really cool opportunity to empower more people in that world and not just the few Jedi that we've seen thus far. I think we could really expand it and open it up, kind of in the same way. I mean, we're not taking the same time leap that that the High Republic movie is going to take. But I think if we are taking this time leap and we're opening up kind of the world of it and the possibilities with it, I think that could also fuel the future. I mean, even Kathleen Kennedy was saying, George Lucas created Star Wars for, to be able to go back and forward in time. And we've seen that in movies and the TV shows. And I think they're doing a really amazing job with Dave Filoni. His is going to be a very present movie because of The Mandalorian and Ahsoka. The High Republic movie, we get to shift backwards, and then Rey, we get to shift forwards. And so I think they're actually doing that really well. So I'm excited to see how that works out.
It's interesting, Ashley, that you bring up the idea of Rey, you struggling with not wanting to say that she would be wiser than Luke. But the reality is, and I know Ricky, as a father of having older children, would agree with me on this. As a dad, I'm totally cool with these guys if they end up not making all the same mistakes that I made. And so I think that that's an element that we can see, not looking at as, the one of the challenges that I think that we see in Star Wars storytelling at times is it seems like they keep repeating the same mistakes with the Jedi Order, right? The Jedi Order keeps doing the same thing all over and over and over again. And so them not doing that because Rey has learned from the past with that is a really, important piece of this that I think that I would love to see them explore. So I love that.
I like that.
Yeah. Taking on that, another spin, that father idea, that family idea.
Yeah. The found family.
Star Wars has always been about found family.
Right.
And and not to get too sappy, but you all have become a found family for me.
Yes, Uncle Ricky.
That's a big thing for me. That's a big reason I like Star Wars. It's a big reason I like all the fandoms that I do, because it gives me some commonality with people, and it gives me this extra community, this extra family. And I'm super stoked to see what Star Wars is going to bring, and I'm super stoked to see what all you guys are going to be creating over the next couple of years because of all that fandom that's going to be out there.
Yeah, and that's really, what you're hitting on is part of why we decided to create Christian Nerd HQ. Like, it's fun to have these conversations about what's going to happen in Star Wars, how Star Wars impacted our lives, whether or not, May the 4th needs to be a national holiday and you need to sign that petition, or whether we should follow Finn's storyline or just get rid of him and replace him with Rose, and let's follow Rose and Poe and Daisy. Let's do that. That seems like more interesting characters. Like, whatever those things are, the idea behind Star Wars is that there is this community that can come together that are united in purpose. And as believers, that's one of the things that we're supposed to do. And that's one of our missions with CNHQ. And as we've gone for about an hour now, we want to thank everybody who's been watching the show. Make sure that you check out not just our individual pages, but also what's going on the main page, as CNHQ is going to be coming out with some specific things that are for them. But let's just go around the horn, and let's start with the Tatooine Sons. Is that you guys have any final thoughts or closing remarks for all of those who have been joining us on this live stream tonight?
Guys, anything?
Oh, I mean, just thank y'all for, if there weren't people interested in this type of content, we wouldn't be here. So, thank y'all for giving us this opportunity to be able to share our thoughts for this sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And super eager to see how this community can not just grow in number, which obviously we'd love to see more people become a part of this community as they are exposed to what the Christian Nerd HQ is, and how there are others within nerddom that feel the same way that they feel about these things. And so we're excited about that, but also just kind of grow in closeness with each other, like we're growing together, and the relationships that we have and how we can stand together in that way. So I'm super excited about all that.
What you got, Ashley?
This is the way.
Kind of just like this.
I've been practicing. To echo that, I would definitely say thank you. I think one of my favorite, very simple, but one of my favorite quotes, I think it's a Last Jedi quote. Y'all can correct me if not, but it's between Kylo Ren and Rey, you're not alone, neither are you. And I think for FOJ, that's something that I seek to do individually. And I think, like, kind of echoing what Ricky was saying earlier too, is like, it's very easy to feel I'm gonna try and not cry. It can feel very easy. It can be very easy to feel alone in this world, in your faith, even in your fandom sometimes. And my goal, and I think our goal, is to help relieve that a little bit. And so I'm grateful for those of you who are out watching this. I'm thankful for the 7 of us that are on this awesome podcast network, and I just can't wait to see what happens. And always, may the force be with you, and may the Lord be with you.
That's good.
She
Man,
should've
I
gone
got
last.
nothing good like that.
I can go again.
I'm just rooting for Thrawn, and I think whoever they cast against Thrawn, or whatever character is going to be against Thrawn, should be Benedict Cumberbatch, because he already faced Lars in Sherlock, and they were amazing.
Yes, that was
So I don't
great.
care who. I don't care. Whoever it is that's against him needs to be Benedict Cumberbatch.
The
Get us
fan
more
casting for Thrawn for years was Benedict
Yeah.
Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
With
Put
that,
Benedict
so.
in everything, as far as I'm concerned.
Ricky, any final thoughts?
Man, thank you all for watching, for listening to my podcast and all these other podcasts as well. You guys are the reason we do what we do. Like, I don't remember which one of the Tatooine Sons said it earlier, but one of them said it. You know, if it wasn't for you guys, we definitely wouldn't do this. And, you know, but I love being a part of this community.
Awesome.
Where can we find all y'all shows now that you've watched us? You're a fan of the Tatooine Sons, and you're just hearing about Fangirling Jesus for the first time, or you're just hearing about Christian Nerds
And you're
Unite?
irritated with us already.
Yeah, and we tell people, don't listen to our show. All of our guests instruct people to do that every episode. So where can we find y'all's shows? And let's start with Ashley. Where can we find FOJ?
You can find FOJ on Instagram, Facebook, and we just joined Twitter. Not Twitter. No. Sorry, not Twitter.
You just joined
We just
TikTok.
joined TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok. The clock app.
The talk.
TikTok. Thanks, guys. Fangirling Over Jesus is on TikTok.
It's true. They have wonderful brisket. You'll love it.
And if nobody followed any of that, just go to fangirlingoverjesus.com and scroll to the bottom. You'll find all the links there.
Right on.
Very
Ricky,
good.
where can we find Christian Nerds Unite?
Most socials, we are Christian Nerds Unite. There's a few that's a little too long for, so you can go to christiannerdsunite.com, find all of our social links and links to our YouTube channel there, as well as links to a bunch of the podcasting platforms and how to find us.
And Screen Rant's #2 Star Wars podcast. But where do we find y'all?
Anywhere you want, just search Tatooine, spell it right, or you're going to find some weird tattoo sites.
That's
So
right, the Sons part right,
yeah,
too.
you got to get Tatooine right, and then you got to get the SONS on that. If you search that on any social network, that's where we're going to be.
Yeah,
So, yeah, for us, you can go to reverendrep.com, which our name can be a little cumbersome. So reverendrep.com, but if you go to baconoffice.com, it redirects to reverendrep.com.
way easier than trying to spell out Reverend and Reprobate. Baconoffice.com, and that's where you'll find it. This is also a true thing, along with the kangaroo that we're trying to get onto the show.
If you go to Bacon Office, it goes to ours.
It's just redirects in order to
We
make
saw
it
that free
easier.
URL and we grabbed it.
There we go. Well, thank you guys so much for checking
I was
out
gonna
Christian
say-
Nerd HQ. Yeah.
Might just throw this real quick. You are going to be able to find all of us on all the major socials and on the web at Christian Nerd HQ. That's Christian Nerd HQ. We're on all the socials now, and we'll have links to all of our stuff there as well. And ChristianNerdHQ.com.
Nice.
Check all that stuff out in the show notes. And I don't think we can finish this without saying the most important words a man can say. May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
Yeah,
May the
of
force
course
be
it
with
is.
you.
With you.
May the force be with you.
baconoffice.com.